All right, ooh.
No, sir.
I told him he didn't have to be here.
You got one board member.
All right, okay. Testing. How about this?
Yeah, it's working.
Is it work? You can hear. There we go. It's working. Okay, there we go. See? Well, I went and got a law degree. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call today's meeting to order. We have a short agenda in this meeting. This will be our last meeting of 2015, and our 14. Sorry, I'm looking at the number 15 right here on the legislative agenda. That's why. So this will be our last meeting of 2014. And our last meeting with the committee as presently constituted. As you know, when we start a new session, there is a period of time where we await appointments from the Speaker, the Lieutenant Governor, and the Governor, and then we'll certainly proceed with meetings in 2015, but it seemed to me that we had kind of a preliminary sneak peek at MARTA's legislative agenda in our last meeting before it was adopted by the board. It seemed to me to be appropriate in this time immediately after the board adopted its legislative package and before we go into session for 2015 to give the legislative agenda a full hearing. I will also tell you that I have done a little bit of work thus far on some of the items that were in the preliminary document that was given to the committee, and I'll certainly be willing to, in the open meeting, give you a little bit of feedback as to where we stand on that. And then I had also promised Mr. Howard that we would have a public comment section in our next meeting, and so we've got that up second. But why don't I go ahead and I'll certainly let MARTA divvy up its presentation however it would like. Usually we have Rhonda, and we do in fact have Rhonda.
Chairman and committee members.
You might want to hit the, let's see if it, there you go.
Okay.
All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. Chairman, committee members, and happy holidays to you. I'm going to quickly go through the 2015 legislative agenda as adopted by MARTA Board of Directors. First is the ad valorem unintended consequent correction for MARTA. As you all know, HB 286 was passed in 2013. As a result of that, MARTA will lose over the next 5 years approximately about $46 million in revenues. We have Mr. Kevin Hurley from our finance team here to go into a little more details about this particular legislation. Next, we're asking, as we've been doing over the last few years, and that is the permanent elimination of the 50-50 for capital and operation tax split. And hopefully we will have this unintended long-term outdated mandate eliminated from MARTA to provide us the flexibility on the finance side to do some more things with our cash on hand. Next, in the area of concessions, as you all know, we have been really gearing up our concessions and TOD program, and so we're looking to clean up some language from last year, and also wanting to look at adding the authorization of procured services other than competitive bidding services under TOD and concessions. Currently, right now, we only have the option to do a competitive bid process, which allows us to either go for the highest bid or the lowest bid instead of doing other procured options such as an RFP or RFQ, which will give you more criteria to go by other than just price when we're looking at procuring those services. Next would be the reduction of the 1% administration fee collected by the state. MARTA is, I don't know if we're the only agency, but we are one of the agencies that's required by the MARTA Act to have a 1% administration fee collected. And it's not an up to 1%, it just says 1%, so it doesn't give us room to negotiate. And as a result of that, if we have this passed, we will probably save about $900,000 annually. Next, we're looking at the to reduce the need for supermajority votes on certain issues. This is something also last year during the previous bill that we probably need a little cleaning up. We're looking at right now taking some of the things that were done as a supermajority in the past, eliminating those, and then having the supermajority in place just for hiring of the general manager, hiring of general counsel, and then authorization for projects over $1 million for expansion projects and capital investment projects.
Now, well, now it's working. The supermajority vote that's required in the MARTA Act is not so much a supermajority as it is a majority of the total board membership. I'm correct on that?
One more than
right.
Than the majority of the total board membership.
Well, it's 50%. It's 50% plus one of the total board membership, correct?
Yes. So with the current
Right.
makeup of 10 members, it would be
6, 7. Okay. Okay. Understood. I would like to have kind of a deeper conversation about I mean, obviously I think there is, I mean, there are reasons that each of these items were put in a special list of items that require a supermajority vote. I'll certainly be willing to consider each item on its own merits, but I would like to talk both with staff. I mean, and it's probably not a conversation that needs to happen at this moment, but talk both with staff and with board members about the desirability, both the desirability and the propriety of handling each of these at a different threshold. So that's fine, but go ahead.
Okay. Next, this actually provision came up during the Clayton County discussion, and we're asking to amend the language pertaining to the sales and use tax for joining the system. We're asking to eliminate the section in the MARTA Act that talks and provides the option for a half penny instead of 1% when joining the system. Next, when we look at legal issues, we have talked and started this discussion last year around sovereign immunity. We've also been in talks with the trial lawyers about this and have started the dialogue of looking at a limited waiver for MARTA around sovereign immunity. And so we will continue as session moves forward to discuss this more with them and you. And then finally, we have, as you all know, as a part of the legislation last year, we included a provision around Right with Respect that would allow fines and fees. We would like to spell those procedure and process out a little more on how the fines and fees were collected and the jurisdictions and all of those things. And so we wanted to add a little more process. When you look at the other transit agencies around the country, it actually talks about their process in their legislation. And so we wanted to flesh this out a little more.
All right, now 3 items that were in the prior presentation that don't appear to be in here are a reduction in the number of mandatory board meetings, fixing the issue with the DOT commissioner voting up to the date that the board changes over with the new membership composition, and the staggering. No, I'm sorry. That was not in here. That's an ad by me in the bill that I'm presently working on. That would the present MARTA Act allows Clayton, Gwinnett, and Cobb upon joining the system to appoint 2 board members, but does not provide for the staggering of those 2 board members. And that obviously it would be consistent with what we did with the rest of the board, and certainly we want that to occur. So that's going to be added in any event. But what happened with the minimum number of board meetings and the DOT commissioner vote?
After we presented here at MARTOC and went back to discuss more with our board and with staff, we just decided those 2 options, those 2 provisions could come off this particular legislative session. at this time, and we could have more discussion about moving forward with that in the future.
Okay, then what, you know, I did give you kind of a working draft. I think my inclination would be to, I do want to keep the DOT commissioner vote in there. I mean, it's just through December 31st, 2016. But I think you need to have an odd number of voting members, and I think it's desirable to have a state voting member. And in fact, the new scheme includes a state voting member. It's just a different person. But on the board meetings, we'll probably, if it's not being requested by the board, I think I'd be inclined to take it out. All right. As for the other items, well, we'll talk about TAVT in a little while in a deeper presentation. But on the concession, both on the concession services and the ride with respect fines and fees, those two are items that obviously I get the gist of the subject matter you would like addressed, but not the substance of how you would like to address it. And obviously, I don't want to create that out of whole cloth. So I would like to task, and the question is how quickly this can be done. Obviously, from my standpoint, it would be better sooner rather than later. I'll ask you how quickly it can be done, but I would like language on those two items, concession services and ride with, and more specific language on the ride with respect fines and fees than we did last time around. How quickly can we get that?
We will go ahead.
We'll get that to you very quickly. Actually, the concessions is merely striking a provision of the current MARTA Act.
Okay.
And then the right with respect, I think we need just a little bit more of internal dialogue, but then we can get that to you within a week or so.
That's fine. Why don't we, I hate to do this to you, but why don't we set as a prospective deadline for doing that a week from Monday? But I would like, I would like those, what you would like done on those two issues identified with specificity. The reduction of the 1% administrative fee, I agree with, and that is in the version of the bill that I've handed to you. Now, the way we've changed it in that version is to just say actual costs, and then the question becomes, well, who determines what the actual costs are? I suppose that's a bigger issue to be addressed with your local jurisdictions who deduct the fee. But I am satisfied at the present time to include the language actual costs, and we'll see what comes of that as we move through the legislative session. And if you have other ideas as to how you would like, how MARTA would like that handled, certainly let me know. I surmise we'll be hearing from others as the bill is introduced and moves through the process. We'll have a longer conversation about the supermajority vote. Let me just see if there's anything else here. All right, and that's everything that's in the that's in your package and in the that I think can be addressed immediately through the MARTA Act. Okay. I mean, obviously there are some other items on here that we've seen before that I think are a longer discussion. So, all right. So, any questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, thank you for presenting, Rhonda, and. We're going to have a more detailed presentation on TAVT.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Good afternoon, Chairman Jacobs, members of the MARTOC Committee. I'm Kevin Hurley. I'm the treasurer at MARTA, and I was asked to come give you all a presentation today on the impact of the title ad valorem tax to MARTA's funding.
Oh, I'm sorry. The one item I left out of that entire discussion before we move on is the striking of the half penny for new jurisdictions. Also, obviously, I think you'll find widespread agreement among Fulton and DeKalb County members. I certainly agree with that, and that is in the version of the bill that I have circulated to MARTA. Go ahead. Sorry about that, Mr. Harlan.
No problem. Yes, sir. The tax reform legislation, HB 386, that was implemented in March of 2013, has an impact on the tax revenues received by MARTA. The legislation eliminated the sales tax on motor vehicles and ad valorem tax on automobiles and replaced it with the TAVT. In the TAVT, MARTA goes from a dedicated source of revenue in the sales tax to a residual source of revenue in the TAVT. First, the state and counties get theirs, and once the counties are made whole, MARTA and other ELOST and SPLOST receivers get what's left over. We had the Carl Vinson Institute conduct a study of the law to see how they felt it was going to impact MARTA's receipts over the coming years. The Carl Vinson Institute forecasts that we're going to receive a net zero receipts from the title ad valorem tax beginning in 2016. In addition, we did some research with other transit properties around the country to find out if there'd been legislative actions that had impacted their primary source of revenue to support their debt service. And to date, we have not found any where that has transpired. This just gives you a little picture of the flow of funds from the TAVT. The tax is at the top. The local government and the state governments are given their share. The county governments are made sure that they're made whole, and any remaining available distribution goes to the county boards of education, the counties and cities, and MARTA. Okay, how does this impact MARTA? Initially, there's a significant reduction in sales tax revenue due to the elimination of the sales tax from automobile sales. Secondly, it's viewed as a credit negative by the credit rating agencies. When we go out to issue debt, they have seen that there's a methodology where they're removing dedicated sales tax resources that would traditionally go to support our bonds. So MARTA's debt capacity is reduced and our debt coverage ratios are reduced. And that will impact potentially our ratings, or at least how they perceive our ability to pay our debts. At the same time, the state, it's broadened its tax base by putting the TAVT in place, and the local governments have suffered a decline in their tax base. And this is from years 2013 to 2015. MARTA is getting its share out of the declining local tax base. This is just simply a picture. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hit your button. Senator Miller.
Didn't we have a provision where we made the local governments whole?
You make the counties are made
not
whole.
Not you, but bear with me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's correct.
So where we messed up, with all due respect, because I don't remember, when we passed this bill, do you remember MARTA coming to us and I mean, we probably should have realized it because it is a sales tax, but I don't remember anybody talking about, from MARTA, the consequences. And for that, I apologize. We are Fulton and DeKalb should have thought of it, but I don't think we ever did, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly would not lay that at MARTA's feet, but I would say I think it's an oversight by everybody.
Yes.
Okay, I just wondered if I didn't remember.
Sir, you're correct.
I remember the local screaming, and that we said, okay, we'll do this and make you whole. But I just don't remember MARTA coming and testifying in the conversation. And maybe, shame on us maybe, because we should have realized it. I don't think we thought that far down the road, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I think we were in the same boat. We didn't realize, hey,
Okay.
that's our splost, and the splost is the residual. So
Okay.
we caught on to it after that,
no, I'm
but
with you.
that was a little bit
No,
too
but
late.
I just wanted to
so.
make sure that, because I just didn't remember hearing that at the time. So
Yes, sir,
thank you.
you're correct.
Thank you.
Okay, and this is simply a picture of how the revenues are playing out, local government and the state. The key financial challenges that we're facing are that MARTA is going to lose approximately $46 million in sales tax receipts over the next 5 years. While $9 million a year, when you're looking at a $360 million in sales tax, doesn't really appear that large, the implications is that this actually goes to fund debt service for our capital program. So every $1 million we get results in up to $12 million in projects that we can do. Yes, sir. So it's about $110 million this is going to impact us. MARTA, not being a taxing authority, has no other methodology to replace this lost revenue, whereas other ELOST and SPLOST recipients have alternative methodologies, increasing millage rates and things like that that could true up their taxes to where they were. This chart's just simply at Georgia State University Economic Forecasting Center sales tax forecast. The blue line is showing the pre-ad valorem sales tax forecast, and the red line is showing the post-ad valorem sales tax forecast. This slide is just a picture of the ad valorem receipts we've had to date, and in 2016, the ad valorem receipts going to zero in the Carl Vinson report. And what MARTA is proposing to the state legislature is that we amend the legislation to include MARTA in the make whole language on par with the counties and local jurisdictions. And then subsequently, in order to link this to our debt program, we may seek your individual support when we go back to our local jurisdictions to amend the Rapid Transit Contract and Assistance Agreement. That will allow us to pledge these revenues to support our bonds. And with that, I'd entertain any questions you all might have.
Senator Miller.
I have one more question, and if you would bring this message back to Mr. Parker.
Yes, sir.
In Athens at the Carl Vinson Institute, and more specifically at the Transportation Initiative that particular day, for the first time, it was the Lieutenant Governor that brought up the point about that we're going to need to do something with the word transit, and he wasn't talking about trucks and cars and roads and such. Okay. And he specifically mentioned MARTA. So I think it would behoove MARTA to go spend some time with the Lieutenant Governor.
Okay.
Because I think that's a first in this state, for my knowledge, for a constitutional officer to say the word transit and talk about MARTA in a positive sense. So I think we need to explore that and take advantage of those particular comments.
Yes, sir.
And so if you would relay that to Mr. Parker,
yes, sir.
I think a meeting may be in order. And things like this are just a start if we want to really do what we need to do with MARTA or whatever we're going to call all these transit things down the road. So I just pass that on, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, and in a fit of cross-chamber plaudits, I too think that that the Lieutenant Governor's comments were a major step in the right direction. Obviously, there's a much broader discussion occurring in this building and generally among legislators as to what transportation funding looks like going forward, but I was very impressed at the courage of a statewide constitutional officer to put transit and specifically MARTA squarely on the table. On to the issue of TAVT, as MARTA knows, I generally agree that there is an extent to which funding that would have flowed to MARTA has been taken off the table and is now going to the state. And again, I think it's just a function of oversight in terms of there not having been a fix to that up until now. Now, because of the the complexity of this issue and because of the complexity of this issue and how many I guess how thoroughly it impacts the state, the state's bottom line and budgeting and all of that. It's becoming clear to me very quickly that the fix is going to require a high level of investment by MARTA in bringing that message here to the Capitol, and it really involves pretty much everybody who touches on that process. So I do hope that you're gearing up for that. I do think, in fairness to MARTA, that this is something that ought to be fixed. To my mind, the amount we're really talking about is something that would have approximated the penny that MARTA would have received on the sale of motor vehicles in Fulton and DeKalb counties. But how we get there now is because we've changed our entire tax scheme on the sale of motor vehicles. How we get there, how we kind of unpeel. There's many layers to that, and how we kind of peel those layers back is going to be quite a process, unfortunately. And I'm certainly open to being a willing partner in that process, but it is going to have to be a partnership, and it is going to involve a high level of investment on MARTA's end to get it done.
Yes, sir.
We could probably take $9 million out of the Department of Revenue, don't you think? I mean, just switch it on over there or something like that.
Don't put the new commissioner on the spot. Now, I didn't see. Now the chambers didn't come together on that one, but in any event, we're clear on that. Any further questions or comments on this subject matter? Okay. Thank you for the presentation.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Oh, good. Thank you. And I did. Jim Durrett, board member, is here with us today, and I do appreciate you joining us. Thank you. All right. So public comment. We'll just use the same microphone, and I didn't do a sign-up sheet, so folks who want to speak can feel free to line up and speak their piece. Please do identify your name and any affiliation.
Good afternoon. My name is Curtis Howard. I don't have a public comment today, but I do want to ask to meet with you before the session starts. But I want to thank you for putting public comments on. That's very important. And I wish everybody a happy holidays and a safe holiday. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Howard, and I certainly will meet with you before the session begins.
Mr. Chairman, did you see the article on MARTA in the paper today?
I did. A positive article, obviously, about MARTA today. That the budget at MARTA really has turned around. As you know, I'm satisfied with the progress MARTA has made up until now, and a lot of that is a credit to Mr. Parker's leadership. So please do pass that along to him. Usually we have Mr. Parker at these meetings, but that was my call. That's right. That's right. So. I just wanted to make sure that we had a meeting where we had a formal presentation of the full agenda and legislative agenda, and to my mind, that didn't require Mr. Parker to be here. So, any further public comments? Seeing none, we'll close off that piece of the agenda. There's nothing more on the agenda. I do want to say, this one hurts. have been, we usually say a word or two about our outgoing members who we are sure not to see on this committee again. Representative Riley has been, for lack of a better term, my right-hand woman on this committee. A very important source of advice and counsel in how we have handled issues relating to MARTA here at the General Assembly and on this committee. She's been an outstanding member of both the General Assembly and MARTOC. It is a good thing for the state that the governor has discovered how outstanding she is, and I think what is this committee's loss and the House's loss is definitely the state's gain. And so I congratulate Representative Riley on her new role as the Commissioner of Revenue, but I can't state enough how sorely she will be missed on this committee and in the House of Representatives. Thank you. Senator Miller.
Some of us sort of think it's like that TV show with Sherlock and Watson. Okay, between the two of you, and again, I think everybody is very happy for her, but from I think both chambers, from when she was the governor's floor leader, the way she's conducted herself, she's really been a real role model for a lot of people, and you will be greatly missed. And we'll let you keep your $9 million. And again, thank you for everything that you've done.
Representative Geisinger.
Mr. Chairman, I might want to add to all of that Ms. Riley's going to be missed greatly by all of us. She's done a great job, and the governor couldn't have picked a better person. Thank you.
Representative Taylor.
And not just for this committee, but I've had the pleasure of sitting next to Lynn on the floor of the House for the past 4 years. Unfortunately, she sits right between Chairman Wilkins, Joe Wilkinson, and I, and we call ourselves the crew of Apollo 13. So we're finally breaking up that crew, but she's had to put up with that, and that just is a testament to the patience and the level-headedness.
And Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank everybody from the members of MARTOC to the board at MARTA, all of the staff at MARTA. It was an amazing learning experience these past 4 years, and I think great things have been done with good conversation, good collaboration, and I applaud you for your leadership, Mr. Chairman. It has made a world of difference, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity and experience to learn from you and serve with you. Other members as well, thank you so much. Looking forward to still working with you, just from a different exposure. Thanks again.
Well, onward and upward, but sadly without Representative Riley. And with that, happy holidays, everybody. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah for anybody who is of...
I have your gift.
There we go. Okay. You had 8 of them, Senator Miller.
I know. It reminds me every day.
And there being nothing further to come before this committee, this meeting is adjourned.